Everyone for joining us today, and welcome to the Ubi Safe Worker partner product launch. This is a very big day for us at OneNimbus. We're very pleased to announce the launch of our new Ubi Safe Worker product. Some of you have probably seen the product or at least heard about the product, and for those of you that haven't, not to worry, because we'll be giving you a full and in-depth discussion as well as demonstration of the product today. So we encourage you to ask questions. We can handle those in a couple of ways. You can either, if you are online, send your questions via the IM window at the lower left of your screen, or of course at the end of the demonstration we'll be taking questions as well. So feel free to interact with us as much as you would like to, and obviously should you have questions or things you'd like to feedback, we're certainly more than happy to have that feedback from you. My name is Harold Melnick, and I look after the marketing for OneNimbus, and I'm joined today by Michael Verso, who is the R&D manager for OneNimbus as well. And what we're going to do today is give you an overview of the Ubi Safe Worker product, as well as an understanding of what drives the product, both from a technical perspective in terms of the capabilities and also in terms of the features and the functionality. So for today's discussion, what we wanted to do was, first of all, provide you with an overview of the Message Links platform, which I'll do in just a moment. And the Message Links platform is really the engine that drives the Ubi Safe Worker product. So we'll go into some detail and explain how that platform has been put together in terms of what it can do and also in terms of the capabilities that it enables for the Ubi Safe Worker application. And of course, then we'll go into the Ubi Safe Worker product and talk a little bit about why we created it, what it's intended to do, some of the target markets that we believe are going to be able to utilize this product, followed by a demo. As I mentioned, it'll be a fairly comprehensive demo so you can see all the workings of the product. And then, as I mentioned, followed up by questions and discussion at the end. So again, thank you very much for joining us, and let's get underway. So the Message Links platform was developed about 3 years ago, and what it enables is really a one-to-many broadcast platform environment. That is, you can send a single message to either a single individual or multiple individuals or hundreds of thousands of individuals for that matter, anywhere they happen to be. What makes the product unique or makes the platform unique is the fact that not only is it a one-to-many broadcast platform, but you can broadcast between platforms as well. And it's also two-way. So that means, for example, if you had a message that you wanted to send from Facebook to somebody who is using Google Talk, you could do that. And conversely, they could reply back to you. And you can see the combinations and variety of those configurations are represented here in the icons to the right. What's interesting about this, though, is that we've combined a combination of voice, video, SMS, IM, and so forth into this environment so that you have a variety of different ways you can communicate between different environments, and you can decide how you want to be communicated to as well. What we found is that voice is a critical part of this conversation, and I'll go into this in a little while, but we find that voice is a very important part of being able to communicate effectively between groups of people, regardless of which platform they use. And so Message Links has been designed so that it can convert text to speech, and then it can phone a variety of people, either individually or collectively, and then speak your message. And that becomes quite powerful because if you extrapolate a little bit, what you can imagine is we can contact people now in emergency situations, in mission-critical timeframes, that is where people need emergency requirements or need to reach out to somebody quickly and efficiently, and may only be able to, for example, text a message and then, but need it to be communicated quickly back to a wider group of people. The message could then be spoken back to those people to ensure that, again, they help get a faster and more immediate response. So you can see there's quite a bit of possibilities for the Message Links platform. And I won't spend a lot more time on this because obviously our focus here today is Ubi Safe Worker, but you can get the idea of what we're able to do as we go forward. So the first application that we've created using the Message Links platform is Ubi Safe Worker. And the reason we've done this is because OH&S legislation has changed throughout Australia. All of the states, the territories, and now the federal government have developed a new Model OH&S Act to make the OH&S laws in Australia consistent. Now, the reason that's important is because previously each state actually managed their OH&S laws independently. Now there's a consistent set of laws that have been applied across the country. with Victoria and Western Australia rather coming online fairly soon. But in all states will be participating in this new format. And the new governing body is called Safe Worker Australia. And effectively what this enables is the ability to provide OH&S and compliance across all entities regardless of size and regardless of where they are located. That means that there's a consistency in terms of the way duty of care is going to be applied as well. So as you can imagine, what happens, of course, is that this standardization has created a new Work Health and Safety Act, which was created in 2011. And the new model laws commenced on the 1st of January of this year. Now, the reason that's important is because there's been a significant change in the accountabilities and the fines associated with these new laws. And this is important not only for individual entities, both large and small, but for individual workers to know as well. And in fact, what's happened is that the penalties have actually tripled from what they were previously. So this is quite important. Not only are the penalties more significant than they used to be, but there are now a variety of different penalties that apply that might not have applied previously. For example, prison terms, and also significantly, directors and officers are now personally liable for OH&S accountabilities within their organizations. So it's not just the entity anymore, it's now directors and officers that are also personally liable for these new OH&S requirements. So on the back of that, we took a look at how we could help businesses meet their OH&S obligations and duty of care obligations. And we came up with the Ubi Safe Worker application. Now, the Ubi Safe Worker application is designed really to deliver the status of an employee or an individual at the touch of a button. In its most simplistic form, what this application does is tell their employer or their manager that they're okay. The employee is okay, particularly if they happen to be working remotely. So what it enables is the opportunity for individuals who may work outside the office or who may work one-on-one with strangers, the opportunity to report their status, their safety, even if they're not physically in contact or speaking to their manager or their employer on an ongoing basis throughout the day. Now, what's important also is that the device will continue to function, the application will continue to function, even if the smartphone or your data connection was to be terminated. So even in an emergency situation, the application will continue to function. And more importantly, in the event that an alert is sent from the employee back to the employer, the escalation will continue until the alert has been actioned. So you can customize the application and enable the alert to be forwarded and escalated through your organization, and tracking occurs to ensure that the alert is actually followed up. And of course, on the back end, all reporting and a full audit of those communications is available to the end users. So the way the application works, again, is very, very simple. Literally, you would press Start Meeting, the blue button over there on the left, and once the meeting is started, then the device will continue to report not only the status, that is, you're connected, back to your employer, but also can track your geographic location, and also we can set a number of policies around the meeting to ensure that the reporting meets the business objectives for your organization as well. And we'll go into quite a bit of detail around this in just a moment. When the meeting is complete, all you do is press the End Meeting button, and the reporting stops. So it's really quite simple. Should you need to send an alert, you can do that at any time, both inside and outside of a meeting. All you need to do is enter an authorization code to be able to do that. So effectively 3 buttons, a start, a stop, and an alert. And it's just that simple, really, at the end of the day. And as I mentioned, you just press the yellow button to end the meeting. So it makes it very convenient and very easy for people to use the application. And the application works on all smartphone devices, that is Apple, Google, or Android, and also on Windows Phone 7, Mango. So we support all platforms. The application can be downloaded. It's a very small application. And as I say, it runs seamlessly in the background while the meeting is occurring. Now, in terms of who might be able to use this type of a product or an application, We've done some research which we want to share with you and we think might be helpful in getting you started. We do believe there's a strong demand for this type of an application in the government space. We know of a number of different types of organizations and agencies that have workers who work independently or outside of their main office. We have people, for example, in local councils who work independently throughout the day. And also people in healthcare, where, for example, you might have individuals who go off to see patients, for example, in a home care or home nursing situation, and they may be required to interact with individuals on a one-on-one basis remotely. And again, should something occur, somebody becomes ill, somebody needs immediate attention, this is a perfect application for that sort of a scenario. You press one button, you send the alert, and the appropriate action is taken based on the policies that are defined by your organization. You can see the other sorts of organizations and environments we believe that this application could be used for. And we see actually there are a number of others that potentially could come into play as well, such as education, where we believe that there are maybe a need to reach out to individuals who are working one-on-one with students, for example, and so forth. So we encourage you to think about the sorts of environments, customers that you're working with that have individuals who work outside the normal workplace or an office workspace and perhaps could be taking advantage of this type of application. Now, what I would like to do is turn over to Michael Verso, who's going to take us through a demo of the product and explain it in a lot more detail. So, Michael, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Harold. Hi, everyone. It's Michael Verso here. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to give everyone an overview of the web portal which we've developed to administer the Ubi Safe Worker application. I'll give an overview of how this works and each key area that you need to manage for the solution. We'll follow that up with a demo of a live alert, which we'll do afterwards. Okay, just to start off with, what you're looking at here is the current activities page. This particular page is targeted to your supervisor. So what I'll do is I'll explain there's a couple of key players in the Ubi Safe Worker solution. So you'll have a supervisor who's responsible for your remote workers who are working out in the field. So the remote worker is actually your second main player. So this page will actually display any active meetings, so meetings that are in progress at that point of time, and it's also contextual to the supervisor who is currently logged on, so it will actually only show the meetings for the current remote worker. We'll go through a full demo of this after I've gone through an overview of the actual of how the web portal works. Okay, so as you can see here on the left, we have menu items to manage the key areas that are relevant to the Ubi Safe Worker application. As you can see here, a meeting has just been started by one of my counterparts, Jason McClintock. We'll go through a full demo on this later on. So what I'll do is there's three main areas that you particularly need to pay attention to, and that's managing the users in your organisation, managing meeting policies, which basically governs the behaviour of every single meeting instance for a user. And you also have alert groups. Now, an alert group is a group of supervisors who will actually receive an alert when an alert is issued by your remote worker, or if a meeting policy happens to be breached. A few items here is reports. So you'll be able to see a history of meetings and any other various reports that we generate. You can see we also have a menu item here to view your general business information. The last item here on the list is contact support, so that'll include contact information should you need it for support. So I'll start off with users. Quite simply, just a list of all the users that you've provisioned in your organisation. Every user that you do create in your organisation, you have to assign a username, so they're able to log into the portal if they have the rights to. First name and last name, very straightforward. Every user in your organisation is also assigned a mobile phone number, so this is particularly relevant to your remote worker. They obviously need a mobile device and a mobile phone number to interact with the Ubi Safe Worker solution. You also need to assign a meeting policy to the remote work, to a worker or a user in your organisation. You also need to assign an alert group. Now on the far right here, we also have roles, which as I mentioned before, there are a number of key players in the Ubi Safe Worker system. The role actually describes which role a user does play in the Ubi Safe Worker system. So as you can see here in the list, we've actually defined a number of workers. We've also defined a number of supervisors. Just interestingly, you can actually mix and match the role of a user in your organisation. So a supervisor can also be a remote worker if that's what they do inside the organisation. So you've got a lot of flexibility on how you manage your users in the system. So we've put quite a bit of work into managing your users very simple. To create a new user, you simply click on the menu item up here at the top. Now, to provision a new user, we've actually created a wizard here to make it very simple to create a user. So what we'll go through now is the process of actually creating a new user. So all you need to do is define a username. And define a password for the user. You need to provide an email address, first name and last name. Just before I move on to the next section, what you'll find during the demo is that we actually have a lot of areas that have tooltip icons next to them. So if you're unsure of what certain fields mean, they'll generally have the help icon next to the field, so you can just simply mouse over that to work out, what field you're currently completing and how that relates to the data that you're putting into the system. As I mentioned before, you're able to define roles for each user. So as you can see here, I'll just go through each one of these roles. So we have a viewer, which is if you decide that you have users in your organisation who just need to be able to get onto a web portal and just view reports and just view things that are going on without actually interacting, you can assign that particular role to a user. When you're creating a worker, this is typically your remote worker who works out in the field. Supervisor is the person who's responsible for receiving and acting upon alerts which are issued from a remote worker. And the last item here in the list is a business administrator. So this is a user who comes on, who's able to make any change they need to the Ubi Safe Worker system for your organisation. So for this particular user, we'll just assign them as a worker. Go to the next tab here. We need to assign a meeting policy. Again, just select from a list of meeting policies which you've already defined within your system. Now, the thing to note here, when you're creating a remote worker, they actually need to have a meeting policy assigned to their account. This is part of the authorization process when they use the Ubi Safe Worker application from their mobile phone. Part of that process is when they authenticate, the phone actually pulls down the meeting policy information. Now, I'll go into a bit more detail on how meeting policies work in just a moment. So what we'll do here is we'll just select a short times meeting policy. Next item is to select an alert group. Again, very simple. We just select from a list of available alert groups within the organisation. And now we have the opportunity to assign a mobile phone number. Now you've got two options here. You can either assign a mobile phone number which is available in your organisation. So this list will actually contain mobile phone numbers which haven't been specifically assigned to another user within your organisation. So what this does, it gives you quite a bit of flexibility in moving mobile devices between users if you happen to share devices or have multiple devices. What we'll do, if you don't want to choose from an existing mobile device, you can simply create a new one directly within this interface here. And we also recommend you provide a meaningful description for that mobile device. So once that's done, we can confirm and create this new user. Now, as I've gone through this wizard, you'll notice that what we have here on the left is little green icons indicating that that form is being filled out correctly. If you happen to not share anything, please.
So guys, the sharing should be back in.
Okay, yeah, as I was saying, when you've completed a form correctly, you'll actually see a little green icon on the left of the tab down here, which indicates you have filled out that form to what is required. If you've missed anything and move on, you'll see that the icon here changes to red, which means that you need to pay attention to and fill out the remaining form. So it's very intuitive and it makes it easy to provision a new user. Okay, so this is it. Once we've filled out all the information, it's simply safe to save this to user profile. Okay. Alright, so that'll obviously update the list of users. Now, if you find that you actually need to make any changes to a user for any particular reason, you need to change a mobile device they have, you need to change a meeting policy they're assigned to or an alert group. Again, it's quite simple. Select your user from the list down here and just select Edit User Profile. So again, it's exactly the same user interface. You can switch between the different tabs here. Manage your mobile devices, select a new mobile device that may be available in the system, or assign a new mobile device down here. If you need to reset a user password, you can do that quite simply from this dialog here as well. Provide a new user password. I'll just cancel out of that. Or you can also disable or enable access for a user, so you can actually disable access for a particular user in the system. So that covers off managing users within your organisation. The next step you need to do in terms to get a user to actually interact with the Ubi Safe Worker system is you need to provide a meeting policy and assign that to a user. So I'll just move on to here. As you can see, we have half a dozen or so meeting policies already defined. And what I'll do before I go through and create a new meeting policy is I'll just describe what each of these headings actually mean. So a meeting policy, as I said earlier, dictates the behaviour that occurs during a meeting instance. So you may have a meeting policy which requires that a user needs to provide a response from their mobile device to indicate that they're okay on a set period of time. You may have a time limit for how long a meeting can go, and you may want to be able to track user movements once they have issued an alert. So each of the metrics you can see here actually defines how often these events actually occur on the system. So the safety interval check, which is defined in minutes, indicates how often the mobile device will actually prompt the user to indicate that they are okay. Now we'll see how this works later on. So what will happen every 5 minutes, the Ubi Safe Worker server will actually expect the mobile user to provide a response. They'll actually get a prompt on their mobile device to enter a PIN code to indicate that they are okay. They actually, once that prompt appears on the mobile device, they have a set amount of time to actually respond to that prompt, which we allow you to define in seconds. So when a prompt appears, we give you 2 minutes to actually provide a response to that prompt. You can set here in minutes how long the maximum length of time a meeting can go for. So again, we've defined that in minutes. So you can say that if a meeting goes for any longer than 2 hours, an alert is issued. We also define a metric for a meeting policy which keeps track of the codes that are being submitted. So if you have a remote worker who's out in a dangerous situation and their phone's being taken off them by a vicious individual, for example, and they actually try to interact with the mobile device and keep attempting to enter a code to end the meeting, once that happens a set amount of times, which you can configure here, the server will actually determine that that user is in some kind of distress and issue an alert on their behalf. Now the last metric we have here is track on alert. So once an alert has been issued, you can actually define whether you want to keep getting geolocational data from the phone. So I'll actually show an meeting log that we had done earlier where the mobile phone continually provided locational updates on that particular mobile device once an alert had been issued. Now these define meeting policies. Any time a meeting policy is breached, an alert is sent on behalf of the user from the Ubi Safe Worker server. So it'll actually, as Harold was saying before, if something does happen to the phone or it gets smashed or anything like that, the server is still aware of that meeting being in progress and will actually issue alerts based on these policy metrics that you define here. And as you can see before, you can actually assign the meeting policies are interchangeable, so you can assign any kind of meeting policy to any user that you want to. So that covers off how the meeting policies actually interact with the system. If you want to edit a meeting policies, simple, you just come in here and change your metrics. Now, edit alert message actually relates to the alert that is sent out to the supervisors. When an alert is issued from the system, we actually send that alert out with a predetermined message. That first part of that message includes the name of the remote worker, the time that they issued the alert, and the street address. So that's obviously based on the geolocation for where that mobile device is. The next part of that message, you have the ability to put in your own occupational health and safety message there. So that can include instructions on what your supervisors need to do when they receive an alert. So it's customizable to what your organisation process is when an alert is issued. We actually provide a pre-canned alert. You can actually override that with your own. So if you wanted to edit that, you can simply click on edit, make your changes, and hit save. Okay, so the next tab here is meeting codes. So as you'll see in the demo, you actually are required to input a code to either start an alert, end an alert, indicate that you're okay, or send a distress alert. If you find these should be treated like security PIN codes, if you like. So if you find that somebody who's unauthorised knows what the relevant codes are, you can actually come here and make the changes within the system. So it gives you flexibility on managing your codes for during a meeting and how the meetings are started and ended and alerts are issued. So that's a quick run through of how you manage your meeting policies. The next step here revolves around alert groups. When an alert's issued, you need people your supervisors need to be able to receive that alert somehow. So what we've provided here in the Ubi Safe Worker system is the ability for you to define series of alert groups. You can create as many as you want, as you can with the meeting policies. And assign supervisors to each of those alert groups. They are subsequently assigned to each user within your system. Creating a new alert group is very, very simple. You just provide a name and save that group to the system. Now, once you've created your alert group, you need to be able to assign supervisors to that alert group and then how they're contacted. So once you've created your alert group, you select that new alert group and click Edit Alert Group from the top up here. As you can see from this dialog, you have the ability to change the name of the alert group if you need to. Currently, at the moment, you have no supervisors in this list, and the dialog beneath here actually gives the ability to assign users in your organisation who you have flagged as being a supervisor. You can actually add them to the list directly from here. So it's quite simple. Select a supervisor and hit Add Supervisor. Now you can add as many supervisors as you want to this list, and then you can order the way in which these supervisors are contacted when an alert is issued. So a lot of flexibility over assigning supervisors to an alert group. So notification order, I'll just go through the headings here. Quite simple, it just determines how often, the order in which, rather, your supervisors are contacted, first name and last name, and then you have a couple of actions that you're able to perform. So if you need to remove a user from the current alert group, you can just click remove the user. Very simple to use. Now the next step is you need to be able to provide communication, how these supervisors are communicated to when an alert is issued. So to do that, you simply click on the button here for communication types. And again, this brings up a similar dialogue. So as you can see here for myself, I get contacted on my landline phone number. I also get contacted on my email, and I also receive a mobile phone call. Again, I can reorder how I'm contacted. I can add or remove. I can remove ways that I'm contacted, and I can also add new ways for me to be contacted. So I can put as many phone numbers in here for myself as I want to, and simply add that to the list. Now, a thing to note, once you set the communication type for a supervisor, that is carried across any alert group for which they are a member of. So you don't need to, if I was to be added to another alert group, I wouldn't have to go through the process of adding all my communication types again. So those communication types stick with the supervisor as they're moved in and out of alert groups. So they're the three main sections you need to manage in order to provision a supervisor and a worker on your system. The remaining items here are reports. The main report we have in here at the moment is meeting history. And you'll see how this works after we issue an alert later on, do the demo. As you can see here, we have a list of the most recent alerts from which we can actually view the meeting history, if you like. So what I'll do here is I'll just bring up a sample alert meeting log. You'll see this as we go through the demo, but what we have here is an audit trail of an alert which occurred previously. Sorry. All right. Okay. So what I'll do now, before we go into a report in any depth, what I'll do is I'll just hand over to my counterpart, Scott Van Donkler, and we'll go through an actual live demo of the Windows 7 mobile, and then we'll just see how this, how you can actually view an alert in real time on the system.
Okay, cheers, Michael. My name is Scott Van Donkler. I'm just going to give you a quick run through on the actual mobile device, so you get an idea of the interface and how easy it is to issue an alert. This demo has been done on the Windows Phone 7, but we do have the iPhone and Android version as well. So this device has been signed in as the same user on the portal. The settings here just use a username, password, and the mobile phone number to sign in. This device can be attached to either the hosted environment or to an on-premise one just by changing the service details there. So it's very, very quick and easy to set up. So I'm just going to start a meeting. All I have to do is enter in the start meeting code. Okay. And that's been started. So the user at this stage doesn't have to do anything else. They can go ahead and with their meeting, and they'll just receive alerts whenever they have to perform any further action. So if I want to now send an alert if something's gone wrong, I just enter the alert code, and the alert's been sent. So at this stage, the device will start enabling the active tracking in the background, so we'll know where that user is in case they move location. But otherwise, that's all they need to do. So I'll hand that straight back over to Michael. He can run through the rest of the portal.
As you can see here on the web portal, the status for the current meeting has changed to into stress. Before it was active, it has been changed to into stress. So this status will update as certain events occur during a particular meeting instance. just to go through the items here, we have the name here relates to the remote worker who has issued the alert. The start time indicates the time that the meeting was started. The location here, in this case, couldn't be looked up. It'll obviously display the last known address. Now, to interact, what you're able to do from the portal here is actually interact with a meeting instance in real time. So I can actually select this meeting, select meeting log, and actually get a full audit trail of the events which have occurred during this meeting instance. So as you can see, the meeting was started here as we did before. An alert was issued by Scott at this particular date and time. We can see now that the address has been located. And what we have here now is alert delivery details. So when the alert is issued, the Ubi Safe Worker system actually queries the alert group for the particular user. As we showed before, it will go through all the supervisors and the way that they can be contacted. So these are all the I guess you could say, the audit trail of each communication which occurred. So we can see the one here failed, and we get a reason as to why that particular instant message failed. The next three alerts were actually successful. So there was 2 emails sent, and there was a phone call which was made to my mobile phone. Now what we're able to do is actually, as you can see here, we can tell whether calls have been successful or not, and so you get a very good insight to how successful your alerts have been and whether they've been received by supervisors. Now, we assume in most cases that you may have a group of supervisors in an alert group. If this is the case, they've likely all come back to the web portal here to view the information on the alert. Part of your policy might be that the first supervisor to get back onto the portal actually needs to contact emergency services. Once they've done that, they can, in real time during the meeting, actually put a note into this meeting. So to get Scott to type in a note there, they can type that in, hit add entry, and that'll add it to the meeting log. So as you can see here, the meeting log is updated. That's the last known note. Subsequent supervisors who get onto the meeting log have a trail of what is actually happening in real time during this particular meeting. Okay, so that's a meeting log. What we'll do is I'll just get Scott to end this meeting from the mobile device, and we'll go through how you can view the reports afterwards.
Yeah, okay, so the last step, which needs to be just performed, is just to end the meeting. So once any issues have been resolved, or in a normal situation when the users just finish their meeting, they can just enter their meeting code back into the phone, and so the portal will be updated with the meeting completed. I'll just hand it back to you, Michael.
So as you can see, once the meeting has completed, it's now removed from the current activities list. The current activities list only displays meetings that are in progress. Now, if you need to go back and review that particular meeting, you can go to reports. And this is the meeting which we have done. So you can go back here and view this meeting, absolutely no problems. So that's a full audit trail of the meeting we just executed. Now, we actually, in this log, we actually have a good example of a pretty good example of what happens if you want to track a particular remote worker, if they've indicated that you want to track their location after they've issued an alert. So you wouldn't like this to happen, obviously, but in the case where they may have been kidnapped, for example, and they've been transported to another location, we can actually, which one is it at the top? This one here. You can actually, the mobile phone will actually keep updating the server with their current location. So if we have a look at the meeting log for this particular example, we can see that we have quite a number of tracking records for a meeting which I kicked off yesterday. This is the mobile device effectively following me on my way home last night after I initiated a meeting. So as you can see, you can get quite comprehensive tracking details on a remote worker if they happen to be in distress. So we had quite a few pages of tracking information of my journey last night. So the meeting log here is actually is quite comprehensive, and you get very, very useful feedback. Okay, so that covers off what we can do in terms of actually issuing an alert. Yeah, so that concludes mobile device and web portal demo.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Before